Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tactics Ogre, where it sounds like we are a couple of talking ogres and sometimes we talk about tactics. Welcome to Patch.
No, you were doing wonderfully. Don't let me stop you.
I should write these scripts down before I try and do stupid stuff like that, because I get like halfway through and it's like, where am I going with this? Dear.
It's a wild ride. I had no idea where that was going to end up.
Yeah, that was all I had. I could have done more, but that would have been ad-libbing way too hard, and yeah. This is why I'm not allowed creative license. It always ends up badly. But seriously, welcome to everyone. And we're on to, how many episodes? There's 43 episodes of Tactics Ogre. Who would have thought we'd have done 43 episodes? I mean, obviously we intended to finish this right from the get-go. It wasn't just an experiment. No, I love this game. I'm so glad we're still playing. In dribs and drabs. We're getting to like a really interesting part. Like, if we're not too fussed about, you know, rushing to the finish and we're enjoying just sort of shooting the breeze a bit, I'm really enjoying the idea of, like, we're starting to get more classes available to us. We're starting to, like, change people around. It's not just like we're using 2 knights in front of 2 archers and a mage. You know, we're starting to really build proper teams and do interesting stuff. And as you can see, we're going through some of these abilities. We just taught, was it Hadrian or Gilbert? We taught them the deflect, which deflects ranged attacks. Gives him a bit more durability when they dive forward. Rune fences, I tend to send them straight into the back lines if I can. You can see things like this. This gives air reverse, which I think makes you weaker to air magic. So you can start like doing things where you could build a Vartan or a rune fencer with air reverse, and then train them as like a rune fencer with air magic to deal extra damage. And so there's lots of little, like, you can basically do whatever you want. I'm not saying it's perfectly balanced for every strategy to be great, but you can just do what you want. That's the point. So anyway, I always enjoy this game. So many different varieties. And it's like, you want to make it harder for yourself, you can do. You just don't pick certain classes. Like, say you wouldn't use an archer. Now you change your main character to a weaker class and try and duke you out through that. So there's plenty of different variety, definitely plenty of different things going on. And I'm actually stalling because I want to get to the fight before we branch off to talk about other things. As you would know, we've been fighting our way through the necromancy school, or at least the necromancy apprentices. Necroprentices. And we have picked up Divold, the dead guy that is alive. That's a dread knight.
Not dead, he's just resting.
He's just resting. He's not resting for us. He's been involved in every battle. And his sister, I believe, and they are chasing after their father. So we're on this journey and we basically just keep going until we find him. So here I'm just touching up everyone's skills. You need to do it every so often. I tend to, I don't like finick it every single level. I try to build up a few points on everyone, and then when I notice that a particular character has like 500 points, I go in and go, oh, I need to do a few things. But I should at some point maybe go through some of these guys and talk about how I'm trying to make them unique. Like Friedwide, this is just, she's getting wrecked at the back, so we need to give her some defense.
Yeah.
As you can see, like we have Valays and Divold, and they've got a few points built up. We might need to start actually investing in them a bit more if we're going to keep using them, if this journey goes for too much longer. And that was that a reptile unit we saw at the back there? Did we capture him? So he's a hoplite, I think, so we haven't used that yet. It's just cool having these different types available to us. Little John, the beast tamer. I'm trying to train him up, obviously, so we can start. You know, he has buffs to things, not necessarily to reptiles, but other types of beasts. So obviously, all the guys that I just tuned up are guys I already knew I wanted in the party, so it's cool. I can't remember what I was thinking about at this point. Maybe I had a talking point, but I don't remember what it was.
I'm sure we're about to find out.
Oh no. I don't know why I'm not using Canopus too much. I think typically I use him pretty fluently all the time. Even when I kind of stop using archers a bit more and try and use other classes, I keep Canopus because he's vast in class and I usually just leave him as the only one, so he never gets over leveled. So I just use him the whole time, and this time I'm trying to sort of, you know, just use different varieties of people regardless of if they're the best or not. But knowing it's an undead fight, obviously we brought next to cleric. Dun 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 dun.
Well, keep at it, buddy. You'll get there someday.
This is all creepy when you think about it. Everything he does. Restores the life to the body. He almost seems sad that Divold like betrayed him. Askew patch, but what is the mind without the body?
I don't know.
Huh.
Dead?
I almost wish there was a little bit more to him. He's trying to restore the dead, which is cool, and he's obviously like absolutely crazy and devoted to his mission. Was that like psychopathic? But I almost wish he like had a deeper meaning or reason, like he was trying to win the war, or he wanted to be with his family permanently instead of just, well, I guess they were his apprentices, not his family. You know, like he raised Divold, his son, I suppose. So I wondered, like, if there was like more of a reason.
Eternal life.
Yeah, I guess so. But that feels like, I don't know, the ends, not the means. I don't know. That's the means, not the ends, I suppose. Is what I'm getting at.
I think it's just not justifiable, but I think it's understandable.
Yeah, I get it. I just probably wish there was a bit more to it. So here's why you keep these guys in the party. They give you some dialogue. It's just extra lines. You can't mean my zombies. They're not suffering. They're zombies. By the way, that sprite is so out of place because it looks like his mouth is wide open and his eyes are really huge. Like you look at
I thought you meant the other one.
You look at the splash art and he's so serious, but you look at the little picture of him, he's like, ah! It's like out of a Mega Man game or something. It's so bad. He hates the church.
Don't we all?
Well, we have like 4 clerics in our party. They probably appreciate the church.
Don't tell them I said that.
3 clerics, a white knight, a knight, and our main character who also has divine magic. A quality I found endearing once. This guy's just weird. I will not enjoy killing you, but I see no other way. Like how we're in a completely different fortress, but this is pretty much like the style of the map is, it's almost identical to when we first met him.
Yeah.
He must just like hanging out in tall towers. Also, I'd love to get us a necromancer just so I can cast this spell. I call upon 5 other units. Yeah. Actually, if we used it, it probably wouldn't call this many. Ew, what is that thing?
Medusa.
Ew.
Or a Gorgon.
Kill it with fire. We need to train a fire mage. Priority 1, stat. She's a witch. Burn her. Dun, 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 dun. Let's go. Nah, just an enchantress.
Like hell.
Like hell. It's a reptile. Yeah. And it is a zombie.
Most debuffs fade at the end of combat.
It says that except zombie.
Yeah.
He's quite powerful.
Killer.
That's definitely part of the plan. Let's have a look at what he's got. So, I don't know if we looked at this before, but he's got necromancy. Which is like,
Yeah,
if you
we
need...
saw that before.
Okay, yeah. So some of his necromancy skills, they just require a reagent, like the ninja skills.
Yeah.
I imagine it like if you've watched a lot of, say, especially like the earlier Final Fantasy games, where it's like each of them have their own unique thing. So this guy has, say, ninjutsu skills, this guy has necromancy skills. In that game, it's the same as having, like, I don't know, I can't remember now, like sword arts in 6 or, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
7's probably not the best example, but 6 and maybe 9, they had really good, clear examples of each of them have their own thing. It's, you know, your clerics have white magic and black magic, but then each of the other ones have like techniques or a word that describes their unique thing. Dun, dun, dun. So our task here will be to quickly wipe out these already felled ones before they respawn, because otherwise it's just extra units that we have to somehow destroy. It's pretty tough.
On the right side, we have Donatello.
Yay. I like him.
Man of the hour.
Man of the hour. So, we were talking what I was going for before. 43 episodes. It is a long, long time. Plenty of time for us to have said that we're enjoying the game and we're enjoying the fun.
God, I hope we are.
What we were going to talk about, though, is something you put to me the other day, and I will put it in quick context, but we won't get wrapped up in the context. I'm trying out the Mass Effect trial. I have the Origin Pass free trial, 10 hours of Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't even know. I'm playing the game and I still don't know what it's called. I should probably listen. And obviously it's copying a heap of flack, and without going into it too much, I'm not finding it that bad personally. I haven't finished my trial yet, so maybe it just gets schlocky or something, I don't know. And Patch's comment to me was, at the time, if you've played so many hours of it and you don't know if it's a good game or not, because I'm trying to decide if I should buy it, and he's saying if you've played so many hours and you haven't decided, or you can't tell if you're enjoying it or not, that's kind of worrying. At the time, like, I kind of agreed, because, yeah, why would you, like, it's like watching a TV series. How long are you going to watch it before you go, you know, how many times has someone said to you, oh, just watch this show, but it needs 6 or 7 episodes to get going? Well, in that case, I'm, like, offended. I'm like, that's way too long. Why would I grind through 6 hours of TV just to get to a bit that's interesting? But I wonder about video games. What is the appropriate amount of time to, you know, to know if it's good? And how does that all work?
Well, here's the thing, right? I think at the time we were talking, I don't know if this is the note I made for this conversation topic. Apparently it's 4 hours was around the point where I was saying that, which I honestly think if a game hasn't shown you what it is within a space of 4 hours, then like it's sort of, it's too much. Because I don't. One of the things I have a lot of problems with in a lot of these games, is they have too much talking. That's something that puts me off of playing RPGs a lot. It's just talking, too much of that. Because I want to play the game. And if I have played for 4 hours and I haven't sampled the gameplay and decided whether or not I like the gameplay, then how am I supposed to know, like, how should I continue playing? There's so many justifications for my argument. The case is like Steam. You have a 2-hour window of playtime before they no longer accept refunds. If a game takes 4 hours to know whether it's good or bad, then I can't get a refund. Like, that's probably more Steam's fault than a game developer's, but it's like, what are you doing for 4 hours that a player can't go, yeah, this is the game for me? And even for an RPG where you can expect a lot more talking and faffing around and not doing a lot, I should still be able to expect in a 4-hour period some kind of tutorial section for game mechanics, at least a section that goes for maybe an hour where you interact with characters and learn the basis of them, and then at least one mission where some large amount of quantity of the game, like the fundamental experience of the game, has occurred. Some games only go for 8 hours, and you're telling me that after 4 it's just baffling to me. Like, 4 hours! Movies don't go 4 hours long!
But imagine, and I'm not like trying to defend Mass Effect because I'm honestly still on the fence about that one, but imagine, I was trying to think, so as part of this, my response was that, okay, I've enjoyed my time, my 4 hours or whatever in Mass Effect, so good. But if I've enjoyed it, then probably by your logic, then I should get it, because if I don't have any reservations after 4 hours, that should be pretty indicative. But in the case of that, I wonder, because I was trying to think of examples of games that the first, say, 4 hours wouldn't have been indicative of what the experience was. And obviously Mass Effect 3 is the prime example of that, because it was like pretty good the whole way through, but then you can't help but feel that the ending spoiled it a bit, and spoiled, like, retrospectively went back and spoiled a lot of everything you'd been doing in the universe until that point. So that's a risk. And then I was trying to think of like any other games in a similar situation where that wouldn't be. Do you want to throw any at the wall first?
What games
where you think the experience at the start is not the same as the experience at the end? Like, I don't know, basically any game that you were surprised by or disappointed by is probably in that mold, because you thought it was going to be boring and then it got better, or it started off great and then just got boring.
In terms of games I have played, I can't remember a single game, really, that starts out one way and ends another.
Okay.
That I've played to completion, mind you.
I'll kick this off. Borderlands is a prime example.
Okay.
That starts off as wacky fun. Borderlands 1, especially Borderlands 2, it's a really good example. It's pretty good fun when you start playing. It's goofy, it's silly, you're ginning around with all these different weapons, different classes, and you're leveling up. It's all good fun. After like 4, 5, 10 hours of that game, what are you doing? It's not. You're doing the same thing. Now, Borderlands 1 has a sort of a tonal thing that I think sort of holds it together, but Borderlands 2 gets really boring as you go on. And
yeah.
So,
well,
you would say in that game, the early few hours don't really represent the whole game, or they do. They represent the whole game too much, because they only, they show you everything already, and there's nothing interesting that changes after that.
Well, see, this is something that ties into, and this, the problem is, the base experience you should be able to get out of that first 4 hours doesn't have to be the extent of experiences that you get in 4 hours. And the example I'll use is shooters. In a shooter, especially an old classic shooter, the guns you get in the first 4 hours might not be the same guns you get in the next 4 hours. You might get more and different weapons. And each weapon you add, especially in these old shooters like Half-Life, like, I guess not Doom so much, but Turok, which we were talking about recently, these old shooters where you got this really cool variety of guns. What you'd get over time is a different experience. A prime example is the crossbow from Half-Life, Half-Life 2. You get this long-range sniper, which is very impactful, but you don't get it for a long time. And you can use that for one-shots on most enemies you encounter, and you can do it from a very long range. And some situations are even built with the crossbow in mind, where you can pick off enemies from a distance and not have to face them immediately. And it does change how you can play because of that design, but it doesn't change how the combat functions. Everything about Half-Life is still the same. In fact, the even bigger point would probably be the gravity gun, which can completely revolutionize how you play your game based off what you have in your environment and surrounding you and what comes at you. They're tools that you were given later on that enhance and advance the experience you're currently facing, rather than, keep it the same. What Borderlands 2 really failed at was the first thing you do is shoot stuff, and by the end of the game you're still shooting stuff.
That's
Borderlands
what you're just
1
saying Half-Life is like, you're saying
No,
it's
but
the
you
same
shoot it in the
experience.
But you shoot it in the same way. You can get a shotgun, an assault rifle, a sniper, a pistol,
But that's my
a
thing.
rocket
So
launcher.
you start
in the first-
Half-Life, and then as it goes, it finds new and creative and interesting ways to keep you interested and trying different things. And Borderlands 2
Sure.
doesn't do that. And that's what I'm saying, is the start of the game isn't indicative of what the game ends up being.
But then 4 hours to figure out what the game is going to be?
Well, I've never played
You see-
Half-Life, so I don't know how long that takes to... You said the crossbow thing doesn't come for ages. Well, you don't know that's
Yeah.
coming. So how do you know in 4 hours that it's going to keep being creative and interesting?
Because it keeps introducing weapons over the course of the game. It doesn't give them all to you at once. It builds up in its toys. And that's what a good game should do. But, the difference is Borderlands dumps everything on you at once. By the time you reach level 5 and you get your class ability, that's functionally you for the rest of the game, with only minor changes to how you might play. And that's specific classes can occasionally get something to change their class ability. Otherwise, everything you're going to be doing in that game is pointing at heads and shooting. Point at a critical spot and hold down the left trigger, hold down the left mouse button.
So what about something like Halo? And you can pick whichever Halo versions. Let's say pick a Halo that you liked and a Halo that you didn't like.
Well, the problem is the Halos I didn't like them not for gameplay reasons. Except for the fourth one, I guess you could say.
You
But
liked the
Halo-
Halo 3? Well, I didn't play multiplayer Halo 3. Maybe that was the best, but the story... the story in Halo 3 sucked, but it had the Borderlands 2 problem where you start off it's interesting enough in concept, and then by the end you're fighting generic robots and using generic robot weapons, and it's not really... the last 3 or 4 hours of Halo 3, from my memory of one full playthrough, is all just fighting the same enemies that are interchangeable because they're literal robots and they have no personality or anything.
I'm honestly not sure if you're talking about Halo 2 or Halo 4, because
Three.
Halo 3 doesn't actually have robots on the scale that Halo 2 or Halo 4 did.
What are the red things in Halo 3?
In Halo 4, there's red robot-y enemies with they look molten almost.
Oh, maybe it's Halo 4 I've played then. What happens in Halo 3? What's the story in Halo 3?
Aliens have invaded Earth.
What's
And
the
then
one
you
where
discover-
Master Chief is starts on a ship and he's in cryo and... Is that
Yeah,
4?
that's Halo 4.
Okay, my
That's
bad.
4.
So this is me,
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
not a Halo man.
Okay, so
Okay.
here's the thing, right? To get back to the point.
Yeah.
In Halo 1 and 2, admittedly, it doesn't have quite, the variety in guns. It doesn't introduce more guns throughout the game. But what it does do is it introduces new sort of experiences in different ways. And one of the ways it does that is it introduces the Flood. Typically, the Flood shows up in the game after the halfway point. Somewhere around the halfway point, it introduces this whole new sort of enemy type that you have to, relearn how to fight and relearn which guns are going to be effective and which aren't. And the other thing it also does is it breaks up the gameplay a lot, and this is something that Half-Life also does. The games break up the gameplay with vehicle sections or specific other sections, primarily vehicle sections, which give you sections of the game where you are playing in a different way. And even, say, there might be a section where you're meant to snipe enemies rather than fight them. There might be a section where it's close quarters, things like that. Whereas something in Borderlands, the problem is every arena, every battlefield, everything is so fundamentally samey. It really just feels like you're moving from one place to another. The vehicle sections are really downplayed. You can't really have a sniper section. You can play snipers, and you're welcome to do that, but the game isn't built with, fixed health pools. Enemies scale with you. So a sniper isn't always going to be a one-shot on someone. It might change over the course of a game. Whereas in something like Halo and Half-Life, you've got enemies that are weaker and more vulnerable to certain weapons, allowing you to sort of learn, not a pattern, but learn a sort of scale or measurement of how effective your weapons are versus the enemies, and apply that knowledge at a later point in the game in different situations and environments. And that's sort of the thing. It evolves. The game evolves over time, and I don't mean that as a pun on Halo Combat Evolved, but that's... Whereas, again, Borderlands, the starting experience is the same fundamental experience all throughout the game.
Yeah, but that's the thing I'm kind of hinged on, is that you don't know that until a certain amount of time in. So is it just a question of timing? Like, how quickly do you have to introduce
I think you have to... Yeah, I think you have to demonstrate that your game will evolve and change over a certain course of time. Because there is no good starting in... Like, here's a great example for this, right?
Yep.
And you'll be the prime choice for this. Final Fantasy XIII. 20-hour linear walk is what it has often been accused of. Of just a bog, terrible tutorial. And then the game opens up. And is that true? What would you say? You've played the game. I haven't.
I'm still a bit... I think that's a bit critical. So I've been... This is hard to describe, because you can't really talk about Final Fantasy XIII without understanding Final Fantasy. It's always been linear for so long, and then the world opens up. It always... Everyone... I've been going through all of the old Final Fantasy. I started at 6. I've been just watching Let's Plays. 6, 7, 8. I'm on to 9. Every one of them. All this traditional Final Fantasy is... It's all... Go here, go here, go here. It's linear. You don't have much room to move. And then it opens up sort of at about the halfway point. Every single time. Now, that's what happens in 13. But the thing is, the game is a 30-40 hour experience, which is a lot longer than all the traditional Final Fantasies that they did this in. So, I don't disagree. It's a long haul, and maybe it's just modern gaming can't still do that old Final Fantasy style. And I realize that we're talking a little bit out of date, because now there's like Final Fantasy 15 or something out.
Yeah.
But it just, yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree and I kind of don't agree. But even then, like, you don't know that it's going to be a 20-hour slog until, you know, 5-10 hours into it. The first 4 hours are pretty interesting. There's a lot of story, you meet all the new characters, you get to do a lot of things. Excuse me. Poof. It's Crowman.
Cheeky.
So,
we're gonna get him.
I'm back to just wrap that for a second. Oh no, let's listen to Gildas and see what he has to say. I tried really hard not to actually kill him during the fight. I was like, we can save him. Gildas. Ah. I like how his portrait on the right there is black.
I have a question before we go back to our conversation topic. What was with the snake lady on the left? She didn't move.
Yeah, I think she got stuck.
Maybe.
I don't know. That might be a bit of a glitch. Yeah, I can remember this mission, so I don't know if she always does that. But she definitely got stuck.
Well, anyway,
We'll put a pin in the discussion, because there's a bit of story for the next couple of minutes, and we should follow that and chat about that. Because interesting things. White Knight, Terror Knight. We have a whole team of knights. I think with a couple more knights, we can make a whole team of knights. Like, if we had different classes of knights. Can we get
can you
Mage
make a night knight?
A night knight. He only comes out in the dark. Ooh.
And he's got the sleep spell.
He's got the sleep spell. He's got the sleep spell cast on him. The wretched girl. I wonder who he's talking about.
Oh, clearly like fried swine.
I kind of like this behind the scenes thing, because it shows that your Grace is kind of a dick. And we kind of always knew that, but technically the MC, main character Butley, didn't know that.
No, instead of indulging her, we should kill her.
Nah, see, I kind of like this too. He's not just being a prick, actually. I sold him short. He's like... And then he turns around and says that. Did you get that whole exchange? He was like,
Yep.
we can't indulge her. And Stellinos is like, why not? And he's like, oh, I'm not just being a prick. It's because everyone wants to go home. We need to tell everyone that we're in war and we have to make sacrifice. And if we let people off, you know, none of them will stick with us. And you're like, oh, he's not a dick. And then he's like, besides, we need her to control Butley. And you're like, wow, he's a dick. And that's not her. I like how he waits for her to go past before he talks to her. Also, is her first name Resistance? And her last name Sybil.
That's why everyone calls her Sybil. No one wants to acknowledge her first name.
See, on your way. I kind of like this. It's silly having him just go through different things looking for her, but the pause kind of adds to the emotion of the moment. You might not be getting it because I'm talking all the way through it, but you know what I mean? It gives you a real sense of Leonard's like strolling the halls looking for her.
I hope she hasn't got kidnapped again. It's really getting old.
There's no kidnapping in this game. Jeez.
What about Japan?
Ooh, what is this panning shot?
I'm pretty sure that was the same town. From different heights.
It got nighttime. There she is. FYI, this is Goliath. And that's actually the end of the episode. So see you guys next time.
Bye bye.